We'll continue the conversation now with Dr. Ronny Jackson. He's back. He's a retired Rear Admiral. He is also the former chief medical advisor to President Donald J. Trump, candidate for Congress in Texas' 13th district. Thanks for coming back, Doctor. Good to see you. I got to ask you here, did you ever, at any time in your administration, work with John Bolton?
Oh, sure. I was around him all the time. He was there at the same time I was there for most of the time. So I'm familiar with Mr. Bolton.
What do you make of him releasing his book come Tuesday?
Well, honestly, I think it's shameful. I mean, I think it's shameful that he's betraying the trust of the president in this country, that we put in him as our national security advisor, to line his own pockets financially with this book. And to me, what looks like a petty attempt to lash out at those in the White House that he disagreed with. And, I can't believe that someone who was actually the former national security advisor is going to do something like this. But he's trying to get the book out now. But I disagree with it 100%.
Have you talked to anyone else about Mr. Bolton's book that's coming out? Maybe someone else that you've worked alongside in the administration. Do they have thoughts as well? They shared with you? Is it? I guess what I'm getting at is this commonplace for not really agreeing with what Mr. Bolton is doing by releasing a book with possible classified information?
Yeah, no one at the White House agrees with what's going on right now. I mean, we have a responsibility to this country when we're in those roles, those national security roles, and we're privy to that kind of information, to make sure that when we leave, that we don't leak this kind of information out, write about it in books and things of that nature. It's irresponsible. And I'll tell you, Mr. Bolton's not well liked. He's not well liked by the left. He's not well liked by the right. That's one of the things that we've known about him for years and years, is he's not someone that people warm up to and actually, tend to have much of a relationship with or like very much. And that's just coming out now. And this really is him being disgruntled about what happened on his way out as a national security advisor and striking back. But I think he's trying to make some money with this too. And I just disagree with it.
Do you have any idea what's in this book? I know it's early, but do you know anything that's in it?
I don't. I mean, I'm looking at what's being leaked out right now too, and I think some of the stuff in there just I think it bolsters the president. One of the things I read that got leaked out was his thoughts on Iran when we were in this conflict with Iran recently, and he was pushing hard for these huge military strikes in Iran, and the president backed down, and the president said, "We're not going to do that. It's not appropriate. It's not a proportionate response." And people are all the time talking about how the president was going to get us into wars and drag us into all these conflicts and everything. Well, we know that John Bolton for years has been a warmonger, and basically a war hawk. And I think this speaks highly of the president. Said the president, despite the advice that he was getting from John Bolton on striking Iran and potentially drawing us into another conflict, the president had the good sense to take a step back and look at what was an appropriate response and do what was appropriate, not what was being recommended by Mr. Bolton. So I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's actually going to, from what I've read, make the president, look pretty favorable in all of this. But I don't know what all is in there. But a lot of it's secondhand information apparently too.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, because I wonder the same thing. At some point, there's got to be some information that actually may play well to Trump's fan base, if you will.
Yeah.
Before we go, yeah. Mr. Bolton is not writing science fiction. And if so, you give him a pass for lying. You've got to make stuff up in these books. But he's writing about factual events, or so he says, factual events inside of this book. We have him on tape saying, look, as a diplomat, you lie. This is how it goes. If I'm protecting the truth by lying, this is what I have to do. It's an interesting watch. I guess, do you question his credibility at this point when you've got him admitting, yeah, I'll lie to protect the truth?
Yeah, I absolutely question his credibility. Just the simple fact that he's doing this, which I think is just profoundly inappropriate, makes me question, his credibility. And already people are pushing back from the White House that are saying that he's been reported to say things in this book that they completely disagree with. They say did not happen. So I think that it's right to question his credibility on a lot of this stuff. And we'll see when the book comes out. If it comes out, I hope it doesn't. I hope it gets blocked, because it just sets a bad precedent.
Well, we'll continue to watch out for that. Dr. Ronny Jackson, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.